In a small African village, people lived under the shadow of fear for 14 long years. As night fell, doors were locked tight, but by morning, someone would always be missing. Some bodies were later discovered near the lake in terrible condition, while others vanished without leaving a single trace. The villagers believed that a demon was taking them away, sacrificing their lives. This terrifying cycle went on for years, until one day the villagers decided to unite and confront the creature they believed was hiding in the lake. But when they finally saw what emerged from the dark waters at night, their souls trembled in fear. Most of them ran away, terrified. What exactly had they seen? And what was this monster that had been killing one villager after another? Well, hello guys, I'm Kaushik, and let's begin another episode. Before we continue, just like you've connected with me here on YouTube, I'd love for you to connect with me on Instagram as well. This is my handle, and the link is in the description box. Do check it out. Africa has always been home to countless mysteries, and this village in Uganda carried one of its darkest secrets. For 14 years, it lived in constant terror. According to the villagers, every night some kind of supernatural creature came out to hunt. This nightmare began in 1991. Before that, life in this small village was simple and peaceful. Children played in the fields, women fetched water from the lake, and men farmed or fished to provide for their families. Life was modest, but it was happy. Unfortunately, that peace did not last long. Strange events began to unfold. People started disappearing one by one. At first, no one paid much attention. They thought wild animals, lions, leopards, or hyenas, were to blame, as such incidents were common in African villages. But as the years passed, the deaths became more frequent and disturbing. In just 14 years, 83 people had lost their lives. Imagine a village with only a few hundred residents losing so many loved ones. It meant every family had suffered. The fear grew so strong that at night no one dared to step outside. Villagers were convinced some demon was hunting them. The deaths followed a strange pattern. Some victims disappeared forever, while others were found mutilated on the lake's shore as if something had torn them apart. These horrors made the people certain it was the work of a supernatural monster. But among them lived a man named John, 64 years old, strong in both body and spirit. He had 9 children and 31 grandchildren, and like everyone else, he too had lost loved ones. Yet John refused to believe in demons or evil spirits. He insisted there had to be another explanation. For years he tried to convince the villagers, but they were too terrified to listen. Fear had stolen their will to question. John, however, was determined. He vowed to uncover the truth, no matter what. Then, in March 2005, everything changed. One morning, a young boy disappeared while playing outside his home. Panic spread through the entire village. They searched everywhere, jungles, fields, and the lake, but the child was gone. For John, this was personal, as the boy was like a grandson to him. That moment shook him deeply. He asked himself, if it were his own grandson, would he sit silently? The answer was no. So John made a decision. It was time to awaken the village and expose the truth. He gathered the villagers, though at first, no one wanted to help. But seeing John's determination, they slowly stood by his side. Together, they decided to guard the lake at night. This was not a random choice. Every disappearance had been connected to that lake, which they had even nicknamed the slaughterhouse. Despite the eerie, dreadful feeling the lake gave them, they kept watch night after night. But nothing happened. Days passed, and people began to lose hope. Some even thought the demon knew they were waiting and was avoiding them. Strangely enough, that idea wasn't far from the truth. Just when the villagers were ready to give up, John came up with a bold plan. He told them, if the demon wants a sacrifice, we will give it one. That way, it will come out. It sounded illogical, but shockingly, it worked. On the 7th night, John and the villagers hung pieces of fresh meat on the trees by the lakeside. Around 4 a.m., strange sounds echoed around the lake. First a low rumble, like distant thunder, then louder and louder until the ground seemed to shake. Everyone froze, eyes fixed on the water. Suddenly, the lake churned, and a massive dark shadow rose from the depths. The sight was horrifying. It was neither man nor beast they recognized. Its glowing eyes and terrifying growl cut through the silence of the night. It lunged forward, not at John, but at the meat hanging from the trees. What the monster didn't know was that John had set a trap. The meat was rigged with nets, and as the creature attacked, it became entangled. At last, after 14 years of terror, the villagers saw the true face of their so-called demon. It wasn't a ghost or an evil spirit. It was a gigantic crocodile. Not just any crocodile, but a massive saltwater crocodile, 16 feet long and weighing over 2,000 pounds. One of the largest ever recorded in Uganda's history. This beast had been lurking in the lake, ambushing villagers at night, dragging them into the water, and devouring them. That explained the missing bodies and the gruesome remains. For 14 years, it had claimed more than 80 lives. When authorities were called, the villagers wanted it killed immediately, but the final decision was to capture it alive and relocate it. Once the crocodile was removed, the mysterious death stopped, and the village finally returned to peace. But while this story ends in relief, there is another place on Earth where silence itself can become deadly: the Arctic Circle, on King William Island. In January 1848, local hunters searching for seals encountered something that would haunt them forever. On the frozen land, they saw figures crawling on all fours, their skin bluish-black, eyes sunken, faces devoid of expression. They were dragging a heavy sled covered with a top, and when it slipped for a moment, the hunters glimpsed what was inside: human corpses, some missing limbs, others missing heads. Shocked and terrified, the hunters realized these people had turned into cannibals, feeding on their own dead. They fled in horror. Later, when explorers investigated, they discovered the truth. These weren't ghosts but members of the doomed Franklin expedition. Their ship was intact, stocked with weapons and food. So why did they abandon it to wander the ice, eating each other? The answer came 130 years later: lead poisoning. Their canned food was contaminated with lead, which poisoned their minds. Despite having supplies, they hallucinated, lost reason, abandoned safety, and descended into madness, ultimately consuming their own. What was once thought to be a ghost story turned out to be one of history's greatest expedition disasters. So, which story did you find more terrifying and fascinating? The monster crocodile of Uganda or the doomed expedition of King William Island? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, don't forget to like and share it. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another episode. Also, if you love this video, I recommend checking out my next one where we dive into a Vikram beetle story you've probably never heard before. It's truly fascinating.